Thank you for joining us today. My name is Kayla Murray and I'm the Standing Committee Chair for Finance, Economic Opportunities and Tourism. Before we jump into the public hearing on the Western Cape 19th Amendment, Western Cape 19th Gambling and Racing Amendment Repeal Bill, I would like to give the members in the House an opportunity to introduce themselves, followed by members online, and then the officials. I'll now hand over to the members.
Good afternoon, everybody. Andrikus van der Westhuizen, member of the committee.
Afternoon, Chair. Afternoon, members in the House and online, and to the officials. My name is Mbulelo Isaac Saleko, member of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Members online, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Thank you very much, Chair. Khalil Branke, member of the committee.
Thank you, member.
Afternoon, my name is Nomin Kondlo.
Thank you, member. With that, I'll hand over to the department to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, Shirley Robinson, Provincial Treasury.
Good afternoon, members. Malcolm Boyson, Provincial Treasury.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Astrid Miller. I'm a State Law Advisor at the Department of the Premier, Directorate Legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I realized that we have a bit of an IT issue. I'm informed that IT is on their way to come and assist us with that issue. With that, I'd just like to note that there have been no apologies received for today, and briefly just run through. I retract that. Advocate Marstorp has unfortunately tabled his apologies. He is in training the entire duration of the week, but none other than him. In terms of our rules of engagement, of course, we all know these. We will have a questions and answers opportunity at the end. For those online, if you can kindly keep your cameras off and keep yourselves muted for the duration of the call. Should you have a point of order, you can indicate such in the chat box. And if you want to raise a question at the allotted time, please use the raise hand function on Microsoft Teams. With that, I'll now hand over to Provincial Treasury to provide us with their briefing. All right, I spoke a little bit too soon, so we are still waiting on IT. We'll try. Members, just one moment. I'm going to hand over to a procedural officer.
I'll flight the presentations along while our IT person comes, or if someone else, maybe Mr. Boyson. Oh, there we go.
Great, the IT issue has been addressed, so we are on track to go through the briefing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and members. Western Cape 19th Gambling and Racing Amendment Bill 2019, introduced in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament on the 21st of February 2019, refers. It was reintroduced on the 30th of January 2020.
Apologies, Mr. Robinson, it's a bit quiet. I wonder if you can speak a bit closer to the mic. Thank you.
I have had flu, so my voice is not great. As legislative process interrupted by provincial elections and adopted by Western Cape Provincial Parliament on 20th of May 2021. The bill was assented to by the Western Cape Premier on the 17th of June 2021, and the Western Cape 19th Gambling and Racing Amendment Act 2021, Act number 3 of 2021, the Amendment Act, was published on the 23rd of June 2021. It was not brought into operation mainly due to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the gambling industry. The objective of the Amendment Act is to amend the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Act of 1996, Act number 4 of 1996, in order to promote and facilitate the financial self-sufficiency of the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. It provides for certain fees to be payable to the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board charging of casino operator fees, amendments to provisions relating to limited gambling, machine operator fees, and matters incidental thereto. The COVID-19 pandemic led to a significant structural change in the gambling and in racing industry. On your right, Figure 1 shows the Western Cape gambling tax revenue 2018 to 2023 based on a percentage share. The blue in the bar column is limited payout machines. The orange is casino. The grey is racing, bookmaking, and totalizer combined. The graphs present an increase in the share of the racing, bookmaker, and totalizer combined online sports betting. And Western Cape Gambling and Racing 2018 Rand value revenue. It highlights the need for renewed consideration of the gambling and racing environment as a whole, including within the broader post-pandemic economic context. The structural industry change raised the importance of provincial policy to be responsive to the dynamic gambling and racing environment, considering fundamental technological advances that impact the industry structure and growth potential, where you see a shift from casino into racing and bookmaking, totalizing, which is the online sports betting. In conclusion, the repeal of the Amendment Act. The rationale of the bill that we put forward is if the Amendment Act were to be brought into operation today, it would be outdated and incompatible with, among others, structural developments in the gambling and racing industries following the COVID-19 pandemic. It is therefore prudent to repeal the Amendment Act. The objective of the Western Cape 19th Gambling and Racing Amendment Act Repeal Bill, Bill number 3 of 2023, is to repeal the Amendment Act. The contents of the bill are Clause 1 provides for the repeal of the Amendment Act. Clause 2 provides for the short title. The draft repeal bill was published for public comment under Provincial Notice 137 of 2022 in Provincial Gazette 8690 dated 2nd of December 2022. Provincial Treasury did not receive any objections to the proposed repeal of the Amendment Act. Thank you.
Can I just check Treasury? Have you concluded your slides? Is the music coming from you? Okay, you didn't want to jazz up the sitting at all. All right. Okay, with that, members online, if you could kindly keep yourselves muted for the duration of the call unless called on to speak. I'll now just put it to those online or in the house who are members of the public. Should you wish to make a submission, this is your opportunity to do so. Kindly use the raise hand function to indicate whether you would like to make an oral submission. All right. I see no hands, and so I will take that for the time being as there being no oral submissions. With that, I'll now open up for a discussion and question answer session. Members, you will be allowed to direct your questions to the department. Please raise your hands and if possible, try to keep your questions to rounds of 3 at a time. Thank you. I recognize Member van der Westhuizen.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I believe it's in line with the one that we've had earlier in the committee room some weeks ago. Chair, I think the important thing is that what we're seeing is that the gambling environment is quite a dynamic environment. And my question is just whether we shouldn't in future be dealing with a number of items rather as regulations than in the Act itself. I think we are all concerned about the fact that this piece of legislation has seen almost annual amendments up to now, which is never in my book a good thing in terms of certainty. The law should be well known. It should be widely accepted. People should be familiar with what is allowed and what is not allowed. And I'm concerned that these regular amendments are not conducive to that. So I think we have heard in the past that there are plans to rewrite this whole piece of legislation and to repeal this original piece of legislation with all its 19, and I believe by that time there may be more than 20 amendments. So perhaps if we could just state that and say, I'm looking forward to that day. But for now, it seems to me a fairly simple consideration that is currently in front of us, and that is just to backtrack on what we've done pre-COVID, due to, as has been explained, the changing in environment in which gambling is operating. May I simultaneously say it gives me great pleasure to see how many of the gambling operators choose the Western Cape as their base, despite the fact that our legislation requires amendments, a high volume of amendments over the years. And I do hope that with the necessary legislative framework, that the Western Cape would be able to do even better in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Member van der Westhuizen. I recognize Member Seleko.
No, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. Chair, I just want, in terms of the consultation, the last bullet point, no objections. Or did you get something that says they are actually in favor on the repeal, or didn't you get anything at all when you went out on public participation when it was gazetted? And also, if not, then do you think that the fact that it was during the December time could have had an impact as well for not having any, objections or any comments? Just more info in terms of that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Seleko. I recognize Member Nkondlo.
Thank you, Chairperson. I want to just get clarity on a procedural matter. One is that I think for me, I'm not sure, is it a new phenomenon when there is a public hearing that members are asked to also ask questions and raise their opinions? Because from the experience I've had of all public hearings, a public hearing is a platform for the public to make their inputs. And in all the public hearings that I've attended, we as members have never been given an opportunity, because that opportunity would have been provided for members during the period of the presentation to the members. That's the first one. So I'm trying to understand at what point is it something unique to this particular bill or this process, why in the absence of any members of the public, the chairperson then invites members to then ask questions in this process of the public hearings. That's the first one. The second one is that, again, on a procedural matter, I'm interested to understand that to date, because this is a public hearing, supposedly, and because this is a repeal act, whilst there were issues and questions which were raised by us in the initial meeting to understand why the same department that would have brought the bill to the committee are now bringing back the bill and repealing it. So I'm trying to understand that in the process of advertising the bill, if we can get clarity, if no response from the public has been received to date, whether in a form of written submissions or in a form of intention to attend this particular public hearing. So if I can get clarity on those two questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Member Nkontlo. Are there any further questions online? I see none. I'll hand over to the department.
Thank you, Chair. Just to initiate a response to Member van der Westhuizen. Yes, the intention is to consider legislative overhaul that is informed by rigorous policy research, so that we move away from amendments on an ongoing basis. On the Member Msleku, there was only one comment, and it was Socha supporting the repeal bill. And Member Nkontlo, I think that's not a response to the Treasury. Is there any other?
I think the other question also relates to the period. Yes, it was December, but we've extended the period for comment up till the end of January to compensate for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To Member Nkontlo's question, my understanding of the procedure is that members are allowed to ask questions. The mandatory obligation of our public hearing is that we invite public comment. Before, Member Nkontlo, you'll recall, I did ask members of the public who are online, we do have members of the public online, if they wish to make a submission. None indicated so. In terms of repealing the bill and related costs, that information was provided yesterday. And it should cover your queries, but you're welcome to pose more direct queries subject to what has been sent to you. I do see that we have some more members of the public who've joined us. Welcome. We had an opportunity earlier for oral submissions or written submissions. And if you would like to make those submissions now, you're very welcome to. I just, before handing to you, would like to hand over to our procedural officer just to talk about what we've done in terms of advertising and getting public comment on this bill.
Thank you, Chairperson. So in terms of advertising, the committee resolved to do a hybrid approach, which means that we advertised in some mainstream newspapers, community newspapers, and then also online. We've invited stakeholders personally, especially the ones that commented on the last bill. We invited them personally, invited municipalities, invited all the business chambers, and yeah, and then we also approached PMG for to advertise this public hearing and the call for submissions through the call for comments, and also through our own social media and then paid social media as well.
Thank you very much. Our house is filling up quite quickly, so welcome again to everybody who's joined us. So again, nice to have you. So we are dealing with the Western Cape Gambling Amendment Repeal Bill today. Should you have any submissions that you'd like to make, if you could kindly just raise your hand. Everybody's very quiet today. Okay. So I don't see anybody who would like to make a submission at the moment. With that, I'll open up again and see if members have any further questions. I see a hand from Member Nkontlo.
Chairperson, I would like to put this on record. I've been in public hearings with your good self, and an opportunity to members in public hearing to make submissions has not been provided. And I want to make that submission here in this meeting because I have been physically in those public hearings. Secondly, as you say, that the information that we requested, because in the meeting which I attended, part of what we needed is the information before we go to public hearing. And actually, it is very strange to me from where I'm sitting that the information was provided only yesterday and today it is a public hearing, whilst we needed to have received that information, understand as part of us being in this public hearing. So as a member of the provincial legislature, I'm not going to compete with members of the public because this is a process of the public. It is not a process of the members, because as members, we are the ones who are even leading this process, who are going to even participate in the resolution. So I wouldn't understand the logic where now we are also having to make inputs and contribution in a process of a public hearing. Thank you.
Noted, thank you. I think we disagree respectfully with regards to members participating, but perhaps noting that there are quite a few more members of the public who've joined us, we can give them another opportunity. Should you feel unresolved in that, you're also welcome to write to me, and we can peruse the standing rules accordingly. In terms of the information being sent late, we wanted to make sure that you didn't receive information in drips and drabs. So as we got it, we collated it and sent it to you. If this is too late and you would like to peruse it and find any further issue with it, you're welcome to let us know, and we can action that accordingly. Welcome again to the members of the public who've joined us. So today we are dealing with the Western Cape Gambling Amendment Repeal Bill. It's quite a mouthful. And so this is really your opportunity today. If you have any questions, any uncertainty on the bill, these are your experts right here, and they're completely at your beck and call to answer your questions, anything you're unsure of, anything you're worried about. And we would really encourage you to have your say. If you've looked at the bill and you find that anything you're uncomfortable with, we'd like to hear from you. So I'm going to give it a minute. If you want to raise your hands to indicate anything that you're aware of or would like to raise, please do so. Don't need to be shy. We're friendly, we don't fight. All right, I don't see any hands in the house, and I don't see any hands from members of the public who have joined us online. So with that, that brings us to the end of our members of the public making oral submissions. Members, are there any further questions or comments? Okay, I see none. With that, we can move to adopting resolutions and recommendations. And before doing so, I would just like to sincerely thank the department for joining us today. Short and sweet. For those who aren't feeling well, I hope you rest and recover soon. And again, thank you for availing yourselves for this. Members of the public, I would just like to thank you for your time. There are refreshments at the back. If you'd like to help yourselves, you just walk straight down and there are coffees and teas and that sort of thing. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Members will now proceed with our own business once the chamber is cleared. Thank you. All right, members. So we'll now move on to adopting resolutions, recommendations, or requests for information. Kindly raise your hand if you'd like to speak to any resolutions or recommendations. I see none in the House, and I see none online. Okay, I see Member Nkondlo.
Chairperson, if you can provide me, you spoke about the rules that you will refer to. If you can provide me those rules. Secondly, if you can provide me also evidence of the meetings that you had chaired of public hearings where you had requested for us as members to participate and ask questions to the departments in those hearings. That's the first information I would request. Number two, I would like you to explain, when did you receive this information which you decided that you're going to keep until you get everything and only share the information yesterday? Because I feel prejudiced as somebody who had requested the information, partly as amongst those that had requested the information that I needed, considering that yesterday we're still busy with a scopper. So one would have had not sufficient a time to come to this particular public hearing. Understood, because the questions that I had to do with the rationale of why we are repealing this bill, and I needed that information before I get into the public hearing. So if you can provide me, when did you receive this information that you chose to then keep until you receive all the information before you provided us? And why would you have then given us on the day, on an eve of the day of the public hearing, so that we can be assisted to understand better, so that this process is not a rush, is not a tick box, supposedly to be a public hearing that gives effect or sufficient time to the issue at hand, with the fact that we actually didn't get any input on this particular public hearing of today anyway.
Thank you, Member Nkondlo. I'm happy to resolve to send you those rules on asking questions as members during a public hearing. If you do want information on where members have asked questions before, maybe a bit difficult to source, but I'm sure we can try and find it. And then in terms of when was the information received, I've spoken with our procedural officer. Given that the information is a bit scattered, we'll come back to you with that information if it's in order, so as not to communicate anything that's incorrect. Members, are there any further resolutions? Okay, I see none. Members, I'd just like to remind you, as well as stakeholders who may be online, that the closing date for written comments is this Friday, the 26th of October. From there, we will meet to deliberate on the submissions. We're looking at the 2nd of November. And members, one thing I would like to put to you is the possibility of an informal or formal consideration of the bill on the 1st of November, if the comments on the bill are limited, given that this is a highly technical bill. And so we will see much less comments as compared to when, for example, we dealt with the copyright bill or performance protection bill, which were a lot more circulated and a lot more in the public eye and domain. So members, would that tentative date work, 1st of November? I recognize
Chair,
that says it.
Yes, I believe it's a Wednesday, 1st of November. And I also believe that there are no by-elections as far as I know. Normally, we do not meet when there are by-elections. So then it should work.
Thank you. Any further hands? Any comments? I recognize Member Nkondlo.
Chair, I am sure we would need to go back to both the PEO and also to the department. The basis of the repeal of this particular act is on the changes in the structural outlook or structural issues of the industry. And this is why we are told that we had to repeal an act wherein we had done extensive public engagements on this particular bill. So it would be a misnomer from where I'm sitting that would then proceed and conclude, whilst it is said that this particular bill is on the basis of structural changes which my assumption in understanding that this means that there are serious changes in the industry that the bill is trying to respond to. So surely that conversation you are suggesting of the first, I would appreciate that in that particular conversation, we include both the PEO, we include also the department, because on the basis of what is received as inputs, we should be able to see whether we have not received any substantive submissions from the industry, which is supposedly gonna be impacted. That's why we had to go into a process of repealing an act that was already accented to by the Premier with extensive public hearings that have been done. So I'm trying to understand so that we are not involved in a wasteful expenditure or wasteful process, because if indeed there is no input from the industry, then for me it begs the question, what exactly is behind this repeal of this act? So I'm making that suggestion that if we can involve both of these stakeholders so that they get to make us understand exactly if indeed there is no submission or there is no interest from the industry that is supposedly to be affected by this basis of the repeal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Nkondlo. Just to note, PEO has been involved throughout this entire process, and they went as far as sending out the information to the CDWs. We did have a number of public who joined us in the House as well. They, however, didn't make any comments. I do note your motion, let's put it like that, to invite PEO and the department on the 1st of November. So members, we are sitting with essentially two things that I'd like to put to you to vote on. Firstly, that we proceed on the 1st, and I think that's unanimous. But secondly, whether or not to invite PEO and the department to the next sitting or next meeting on the 1st. I recognize Member van der Westhuizen.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think it is a standard practice to invite the department and obviously the minister as well. The minister quite often gets notified and is obviously welcome to accompany the department to our meetings. So I think that is quite in line, and I'm happy for you to send such a letter off to the department, informing them of our next meeting and the agenda for that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I recognize Member Seleko.
I will support that proposal, Chair, that if there's questions that are unclear and we'll be dealing with the bill on the 1st, I think we should allow that opportunity. And so that, when we deal with the bill, then there's no foul cry afterwards, and we don't suppress any views of any members. And it is a process. Bills are always agreed to, and bills are repealed. So there's nothing strange that we are currently engaging as a committee, because it's a process, and it's within our mandate as a committee to deal with such matters. But if there is a member that feel that there's more questions than answers, then I think we should afford that opportunity so that we put this matter to bed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we have it. We will be proceeding to invite DDAT and PEO, PT, apologies, to our next meeting, which will be on the 1st of November. Members, I thank you for your time. I apologize we didn't have more public submissions, but we really did do our best to get as many people here and get the word out as possible. We were even innovative enough to introduce digital ads for the first time to maximize readership, but unfortunately it didn't yield. With that, meeting adjourned, and please also help yourselves to any of the snacks in the members lounge. Thank you.